Hi there! I know it's been forever since my last video, and I'm sorry. There have been a lot of changes in my life, which was my excuse last time too. This time really though, I've moved to France, so I think that's a pretty big deal. And seeing as how my life has kind of changed, I've decided to change the formats of my videos a bit. So you'll have to let me know if you like what I'm thinking of doing. So my plan for now is to keep it kind of music themed, to recommend one song that I'm absolutely loving. Doesn't matter what kind of song, whether it's new or old. This week it happens to be quite old. And then also to recommend one song that's really popular in France right now. Just because I don't know, I think that might be interesting. And then also, this is just me being a huge dork. I studied art history in college, and I'm obviously visiting a lot of museums because that's what you do in Paris. You eat and you go to museums. So I was thinking of maybe showing a painting or a work of art that I've seen and talking about it. Yeah, so I'm gonna get started. I'm gonna recommend my absolute favorite song of the moment that is stuck in my head all the time and that I'm listening to over and over. It's called Famous Blue Raincoat. It's by Leonard Cohen, who was Canadian, which I didn't know. It came out in 1971, and it's great. It's in the form of a letter to kind of his old friend, but obviously they had a bit of a rivalry. And it's kind of about a love triangle too. It's really great. Let me play it for you. Give a listen.
Oh, the last time we saw you, you looked so much older. Your famous blue raincoat was torn at the shoulder. You'd been to the station to meet every train there. You came home without Lily Marlene.
Anyways, I love Leonard Cohen's voice. I think it's very interesting, and he was a poet before he wrote music, so I think that's pretty evident in his rhymes and in his lyrics. But he's still got it's not a great singing voice, but it's very emotive, if that's the right word. And so I just heard that song randomly, and now I'm listening to all the rest of his music. And it's embarrassing, I only just learned that the song Hallelujah was originally by him and not by all the millions of people who covered it. So go listen to the original version of Hallelujah if you haven't heard it yet, because Rufus Wainwright is not the original. Yeah, so that's my old favorite song. I think it's a great little waltz, and it'll probably get stuck in your head, but in a good way, like it did mine. And then the song that's super popular in France right now, I hear it every day on the radio, and every weekend when I go out, it's playing in every bar or club we go to. And it is called Hello, and it's by Martin Solveig and featuring Dragonette. And it's just hilarious and bouncy and really upbeat, and if you like the song, you should also go see the music video that I'll link in the bottom bar, it is now, because the music video is pretty funny too. Here, go ahead and listen. Anyways, I don't know if that's popular in the States right now. Like, there's some songs here that are popular in the States and in France. Like Bruno Mars's I Would Catch a Grenade for You. Obviously, he was not a poet before he was a singer. But I think this kind of music is funnier, and so I don't know if it's popular in the States. You'll have to let me know, or what is popular in the States right now. I like that song. I think it's catchy. I think it's goofy. It's great. Okay, and now on to the art history section. I hope you guys like this. If you don't, just tell me and I'll stop. But I love art, so Anyways, one of my favorite paintings, I've loved it ever since I first saw it years and years ago. It's called The Raft of the Medusa by Théodore Géricault. My attempt at a French accent, now I'm living here, which was painted from 1818 to 1819. It has become, quote, an icon of French Romanticism. But I think it's really great just because it's got a really interesting backstory, as well as being very well painted. In 1816, there was a ship called the Medusa that set sail. Its captain was an incompetent, inexperienced man who was put in as the captain of a ship simply because he knew the right people. Because at that time, in 1816, the French monarchy had only recently been restored, and they were quite corrupt, and they were just not doing particularly well because obviously after Napoleon, everybody was paled in comparison, and they legitimately were an incompetent ruling body. So anyways, they, through nepotism or favoritism or something, this completely incompetent captain was placed in charge of the ship, the Medusa, and shipwrecked it. Big surprise. And they didn't have enough lifeboats to have all of the passengers and crew aboard, so they put all the rich people basically on the lifeboats, and they built a huge raft for everyone else, all the poor people and the sailors and whatnot. And there were 147 people at least on this tiny little raft that was so full. They were all standing. They put it in the water, and it was so full that it sank like a couple feet, so that they were partially underwater. And the people in the lifeboats were like, don't worry, we'll tug you along, we'll all get back to safety. Well, of course, they cut the rope after a few miles, leaving these poor people adrift on a raft with no oars or any way of navigating their way back to land. And these people were drifting for 13 days out of 147, between killing one another and starving and, whatnot. Only 15 of them survived, and they were finally recovered by a ship called the Argus, and taken back to shore, and their story became a huge scandal because it just showed how completely useless the government was at the time. So Géricault chose this subject for a great big painting. It's absolutely huge and so impressive when you see it. It's like the size of an entire wall. And he became very interested in it. He interviewed 2 of the survivors, and he visited morgues and hospitals so he could see what dead flesh liked, so he could work it into his composition. And in the end, it's such a brilliant and moving painting. And it's essentially they're in 2 triangular clumps, and the one on the left, my left when you're facing it, their right, is kind of, they're the more dying and suffering side, and the musculature of these bodies is incredible, and the morbidity of their flesh is so well done. And then on the right side there's this other triangle surging up, because the moment Géricault chose to depict was the moment when they spotted a ship in the horizon and they're waving it down, and you can only see their backs, but even their backs are emotional and powerful, and it's an incredible work. And so I've included a picture of it so you can see it and hopefully be moved by it. And it caused a great scandal, even though he only called it a shipwreck. Everybody knew the event that it was alluding to, and so it was very scandalous, but in the end successful because everybody remembered this event. And now when we see it today, it's actually, the coloration is different because the paint deteriorated, and so now it's slightly darker, but it's still very impressive. And I would recommend, if you ever get a chance to go to Europe, to go see it. It's at the Louvre, if I didn't already say that. And yes, it's one of my favorite paintings of all time. So I hope you like this. Please comment below, let me know what you thought of the first part with the music, the second part like this. Any suggestions you may have, or if you just hate it all and want me to go back to what I was doing before. Yeah, I hope to hear from you soon. Bye.